Hello and welcome to everyone. I'm Tenzin Namjong, and I think that we have a few new people who've come this week, as well as I think at least a couple that were also at last week's session. Welcome. As I was getting set up with the new space I'm in, the temporary space I'm in, I was just chatting with Michael and. Yeah, so those of you who don't know me, my name is Tenzin Namjong, and I have been studying in Sera Jain Monastery in South India for, yeah, coming up on 17 years. And yeah, before that, I had trained a bit in the Theravadan and Zen traditions. And so I'm very pleased to have been asked to do these sessions on Be Your Own Therapist by Thupten Norbu in Santa Fe, New Mexico, a place actually I haven't not been. I'm not even been to New Mexico, if you can believe that. But I know that Thupten Norbu has a great, extensive program. With a lot of online teachings as well as teachings in person. So some of you might not be from New Mexico, so from wherever you are, I welcome you. And so just to set the context, last week we basically started off by talking about the sort of purpose of our lives and basically the setting the context for everything that we do in life has been to try to gain happiness and to avoid suffering. And I led the people through a bit of a internal reflection, trying to think back in our lives and sort of how we've been spending our time, how we've been spending our energy. And mentioning that the fundamental starting point of Buddhism is this observation that all sentient beings want suffering and don't want suffering and want to be happy. And then as we start our inquiry into the causes of suffering and the causes of happiness, we see that actually it's our mind that is more important. Of course, the external conditions like being in a nice surroundings, having good food to eat, having wealth, having friends, all these things can contribute to some sense of well-being, but those are sort of insufficient to bring the true, deep, lasting, and authentic happiness that we've been so desperately seeking. So that is why there's such a tremendous emphasis on the mind within Buddhism. And I shared a quote from His Holiness the Dalai Lama, basically talking about the two reasons for that within Buddhism. And that one is then relating to the notion of karma, which we see again and again within the Buddhist thought, that it is from our positive actions that bring, ripen, as it were, as feelings and experiences of happiness in the future. And then it is our negative actions motivated by our disturbing emotions that then lead to suffering in the future. So therefore, we have to sort of take care of our mind. And one of the quintessential practices within Buddhism then is to watch the mind and to see when there are negative actions, negative emotions that come up. Then, as the great Indian master Shantideva says, when we see these negative emotions arise, may I remain like a piece of wood, means then not act out with those thoughts of anger or jealousy, not say those, cutting remarks, not do things that will harm others with our actions of body and speech. So that's one. And then the second reason why the mind is so emphasized within Buddhism and how it relates to our experiences of suffering or happiness is that even in this moment, depending on what we think, our concepts, then even that can determine our experience. So I gave the analogy of someone who is hot. Now, whether it's because they are in a place where their AC has broken down and they're hot and sweaty, they might experience that as suffering if they're thinking in a certain way. Or the person that goes to a sauna might even pay to be in a hot room. And therefore, the external experience is the same because the mind is different, the experience is different. Okay? So therefore, to sort of make sure that we, are always taking care of our mind is of critical importance. And later we'll touch on this kind of genre of teachings within Tibetan Buddhism about mind training, where we can then come to conceive of our everyday experiences, even so-called negative experiences, and do what is called transforming them into the path. Okay. So last week was setting the context, and now this week, what I thought would be useful is to okay, if taking care of the mind is so critical and so important within Buddhism, how do Buddhists or people, even if they're not Buddhist, but they're trying to practice some of the Buddhist teachings, what is the sort of tools and techniques that we do that we use to take care of our mind? So here, the kind of technology with which that we use to take care of our mind is primarily meditation. Okay, and so here we can think of meditation as a kind of mental training, right? We are training the mind, and in Tibetan, the word for meditation is gom. Okay, gom means to familiarize or habituate. So here we're trying to familiarize or habituate our minds with virtuous objects, or at the very least trying to gain a level of concentration and control over the mind. So in general, some of you probably know this if you've been to other courses. There are, broadly speaking, two types of meditation that is discussed in this tradition. And the first is placement meditation. And placement meditation is called that because we try to place our mind on one object and then not have it sort of wander off and develop a sense of focus and control and concentration based on one object. So the other kind of meditation that is a little bit unique within the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, particularly the Gelugpa tradition, is what they call analytic meditation. So here we sort of use our analytic mind, we use our critical thinking mind to analyze a certain phenomena and then arrive at a certain conclusion. So if, for example, we were going to meditate on loving kindness, okay? So loving kindness is this thought, may all beings be happy. So we could then, think about what kinds of happiness that sentient beings are, wanting. And then we can think of all the reasons why, how wonderful it would be that they would experience that level of happiness. And then we would, after we sort of arrive at that conclusion, may all beings be happy, right? We then place our mind in that conclusion. And then, with every sort of thing that we're trying to habituate ourselves with, then the more we do it, the more you know, how do you say, the more habituated our mind becomes to that way of thinking, then it'll become stronger and it will last for, longer periods of time. So, in brief, those are the types of meditation and the purpose of meditation. So now, what I wanted to do is, actually lead you through a couple types of meditation. And yeah, we'll do learning by doing. Okay. All right. So, what I wanted to do is two kinds of mindfulness meditation. So, now, just so I know, is it anyone like this is your first time meditating? Okay. So then I won't have to go into too much of the particularities. But oh, okay. But in any case, oh, Michael, I think you're unmuted. Right. Yeah, no problem. So, in general, I invite you all to get into a comfortable meditation position. So, most important thing in the meditation position is to have a straight back. So, I'm actually sitting on the floor with legs crossed. If that's comfortable for you, you can sit in lotus posture, half lotus posture, or any way that's comfortable for you. And then sort of moving up from that. Okay. Oh, one thing that's important to note. You'll normally see people they'll sit on a meditation cushion that will just sort of go under the butt, and then the knees will be slightly lower. So your body will be kind of in this position with the cushion here, and that automatically helps the posture to be more upright. So since there is a connection with the body and mind, when the body is upright, then the spine is straight, and then the energy channels also then function better. Okay. So then in terms of the hands, you can have them on the knees, over the knees like this. What you often see in the Buddhist context is the left hand down first, the right hand on top of it, and the thumbs gently touching, and have those in your lap. Okay. And then in terms of the straight back, you can also sort of imagine that if you were to drop a coin from the nose, that coin would hit your navel. So centered, not leaning forward or to the sides. And then slightly tuck your chin into your neck like this. You can see, right? You'll feel some elongation in the back of the spine. And then with the eyes, different meditation teachers say different things. In general, if you have the eyes closed, it's easier to concentrate, but it's also easier to fall asleep. So many of the teachers will recommend having the eyes slightly open, allowing some light to come in, but not enough that you get distracted by the objects in your field of vision. Then, in general, we want to have our mouth closed, and you can put your tongue on the roof of the mouth behind the teeth, the upper teeth. Okay. So, since some of you have meditated before, I think all of you have meditated before. I wanted to just share a quick sort of breathing exercise that I find very useful at the beginning of meditation sessions. And so normally when we do mindfulness of the breath meditation, we're working with the natural breath as it is. So not just breathing very naturally, allowing the breath to settle into a natural rhythm. But there's other sort of techniques where we try to, hold the breath for a particular number of counts. And this can also have a relaxing effect on the body by activating the so-called parasympathetic nervous system. So the kind of technique that we're going to use, the protocol that we're going to use here at the beginning of the session is to inhale for 4 counts, hold the breath for 7 counts, and then exhale for 8 counts. And we're going to do 4 rounds of that. And then we drop the counting and settle into the natural breath. Okay? So do this breathe in through the nose, right? 4 counts, hold for 7, and then we breathe out through the mouth. And it can be, a little bit forceful. So we can even make sure that we expel, most of the air through the lungs. Okay. So let's start with 4 rounds of that. So I will, do it with you. So I won't give instructions as we do. Okay. So now drop all effort and let your breath settle into its natural rhythm. Now, as we breathe in and out, then try to notice what physical sensations you have associated with the inhalation and exhalation. So some of you might feel the rising and falling of the abdomen. Others of you might feel the chest expanding and contracting. Some of you might even feel the air as it passes over the skin in the nostril area. So wherever that is occurring for you in this moment, just place your mind's attention there and watch. Here again, not trying to have a long breath or a short breath, but just becoming aware of whatever the reality of the breath is in this present moment. Now, as we try to focus on the breath, if there are other appearances that come to the mind, be they external, like different sounds, or internal, like thoughts or memories or feelings, other sensations in the body, then try not to engage with them. We can notice, be aware, but try not to engage. Also, for us beginners, it can be useful to count the exhalations. So inhale, exhale, count 1, inhale, exhale, count 2, and so forth until we reach 10. And then start over again at 1. If, however, we find our mind has gotten distracted before we reach 10, then whenever we notice that, gently bring your mind's attention back to the breath and start your count over again at 1. But try to do this with gentleness, not judging yourself. To help sharpen the concentration and focus, it can be useful to try to become aware of the very split second when the inhalation becomes the exhalation becomes the inhalation, and so forth. So we'll try this for another 5 minutes. Okay, so now gently come out of the meditation and bring your awareness back to the room. Okay, so there's a very beautiful bird right outside my window. So I think many of you will have done that practice before. So I like to call that the vanilla ice cream of meditation practices, right? It's, simple, but, very, very useful and profound. And so I find particularly combining that with the breathing exercise that we did at the beginning, whatever meditation practice you'll be doing later, it's good to do this, what we just did, to gain some mental stability and calmness. And many people, well, they'll just leave their practice at that, what we just did, and the sort of mindfulness of the breath meditation, has become very, very, very widespread. There's, even people who aren't necessarily interested in Buddhism will practice this meditation for, stress relief, and even practicing it before bed to induce or, cultivate better sleeping habits. And all that is fine and good. But here, we're going to be going beyond that, right? So I wanted to put this type of meditation into the sort of larger context, right? And okay. So remember, I mentioned that quotation from Shantideva that when I notice myself about to act in terms of self-cherishing or out of anger, then may I remain like a piece of wood. Okay. So you see, the first thing that we have to do is notice what's in our mind. Notice when there is an affliction in the mind. That's very, 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 very key. Because before we can, apply an antidote to a certain problem or affliction, we have to be aware that it's there in the first place. Okay. So this practice of mindfulness, it's coming from a series of teachings from a sutra of the Buddha, where there it's talking about the 4 close placements of mindfulness, or some say the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And so within that sutra, the Buddha talks about the mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of feelings, mindfulness of the mind, and mindfulness of phenomena. Okay. So actually all the existent phenomena are going to be within one of those 4 categories. Okay. And what we did with the mindfulness of the breath actually is subsumed under the mindfulness of the body. As you'll remember, I invited us to look, at the sensations in the body as we focus on the breath. Okay. But yeah, so it's just for your knowledge. So this practice of the 4 close placements of mindfulness has become, very, very widespread these days. But as the tradition went, in Burma, and then there's 2 main lineages of practice. that were based on this sutra, the Four Close Placements of Mindfulness, the Sutra of the Four Close Placements of Mindfulness. And one was then popularized by Goenka Ji, who I don't know if many of you know him, but he was born in Burma, but he was actually of Indian origin, and then later established many centers, both in India and throughout the world. So that tradition stemming from his teacher, Uba Kin, I think it was his name. And then at the beginning, they're mostly working with the mindfulness of the body, and the practice is to do this kind of going through the body, sort of part by part, and becoming aware of the different sensations there, and combining that with the second close placement, which is of feeling. And feeling in this context, it's not like, oh, I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling sad, but it's more talking about the physical sensations in the body of pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. Okay. So if we are attentive, we'll notice that even when there is a affliction that's arising, so for example, when I get criticized, okay, yes, there'll be some irritation or even beginnings of anger in the mind, but what will happen in the body, there'll be an associating maybe heat or tightness in the back of the neck, right? There might be some tightness in the chest, some some sensations associated with that anger. Okay, so here, one thing that we can do is when there is a provocative situation, for example, and we feel these startings of anger arising, then how the anger develops is from that feeling of irritation, we can then start to sort of replay and tell a story in our mind that, oh, this person did that. I can't believe they did this. Why did they do that? Blah, blah, blah. And then as we are sort of staying in this conceptual line, then the anger is going to get stronger and stronger. So one way where we can sort of put into practice Shantideva's advice to remain like a piece of wood is to get out of that conceptual line of thinking and then remain in the sensations. Okay. So rather than, continuing to tell the story about all the bad things they did to me, then to ask ourselves, okay, what am I feeling right now? What is my reality in the body right now? Where is the anger manifesting right now? Okay. So this practice of mindfulness of the breath, where we ask ourselves, where is the breath manifesting in the body right now? Okay. And then trying to notice, okay, is my abdomen rising and falling? Is the chest expanding? What is the feeling of the air passing over the skin? Okay. We can do a similar thing with our anger. Okay. And where is that manifesting in the body? As we get into the feelings in the body, we can drop the story that we're telling ourselves. That's then just making the anger grow stronger and stronger. Okay, so this, in my opinion, is now going beyond the mere sort of focusing on the breath to gain some relaxation, but that's going to help us even in our daily life, even as we are, at the supermarket and someone cuts in front of us in the line or, whatever it may be, we can start to use our mindfulness practice, not just something we do in the morning and evening, but, watching and, when the afflictions arise to sort of get out of the stories we're going to tell ourselves. Okay. So anyway, we talked about the body. Then we talked about the feelings. present, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. And we'll notice that actually when anger is arising, then that feeling of the heat in the neck is unpleasant. And we make a sort of mistake thinking that, oh, it's that person that caused us to feel this way. And therefore, thinking that if we now harm that person, sort of teach them a lesson, then they will show them and they'll be less likely to harm us again in the future, right? So anyway, we have the pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral feelings. And then we started to talk about the mind, right? So the mind is kind of encompassing all virtuous minds, non-virtuous minds, even sort of neutral kinds of minds. And so we're aware what goes on in the mind. So I mentioned these two lineages of Vipassana, and the first being through Goenkaji, and the second one was popularized by the great Burmese master, Mahasi Sayadaw. And there, in that tradition, they will use this kind of what they call labeling technique. And that will be, so whatever is going on in our sort of psychophysical world, okay, we just label it, okay? So that's a thought, that's a memory, that's anger, that's an itching sensation, that's a heat, a hot sensation, okay? There's drowsiness, so whatever is going on in our current reality, we sort of we use that as our object of meditation. Now, practically speaking, what they will do is, still starting with the breath, right? And almost thinking of the breath as being our home in the meditation. Okay. So we breathe in and out. As we breathe in and out, okay, there's itching sensation. So then, our normal sort of pattern is, okay, there's itch on the face. Okay, automatically scratch. Okay. But instead of doing that, we're just aware, or there's itching. But though that impulse to scratch is there, we don't act on it right away. Okay. Now, sometimes also, right, there might be a pain in the knee when we meditate. And it's not then to say, okay, just like torture yourself and endure like all the pains that might come up in our meditation session. But even if we, decide to itch or scratch, even if we decide to move our legs to alleviate some pain, we do that in a mindful way. Okay. So we're sitting, there's an itch. We might watch it, make that our object of meditation. Okay. Maybe it goes away, maybe it doesn't. Maybe some other sensation comes up in the meantime. But if we do decide to scratch, then even that should be done mindfully. And so then we say, okay, I'm now going to scratch. We set that intention, and then we can be mindful. Okay, I'm lifting my right hand, scratching my cheek. Okay, now I'm moving my right hand back to the legs. Seriously, when I did a meditation retreat in a Thai monastery, and then even getting into the hand position, sitting down, right? We would have our hands on our knees, and then lifting the left hand, bringing it to the center, turning it down, placing it in the lap, lifting the right hand, bringing it to center, turning it over, placing it in the lap, like this. So every moment, aware, mindful. Okay. All right. So anyway, running a little low on time. So, yeah, in any case, to then be aware of anything that's going on in the mind, and then just labeling that. And it's very interesting, even now in kind of popular psychology, this technique of labeling things shows up. And it's a way that we can then sort of disassociate, or I don't know what the right word is, but see, how do you say? Yeah, not have the strong identification of us being angry, right? But rather, anger has arisen, or there is anger, right? Rather than I am angry. And even doing this can lead to some space, some distance, where we don't have to then act out on those impulses. Okay? So maybe we can leave it at that for now, and I can open up for questions. But just to, again, set the context, right? We're talking about be your own therapist. And with any, kind of, before you can get the cure, you have to know the disease, right? You have to know what's ailing you. So this practice of mindfulness, then we did the mindfulness of the body, getting ourselves into the relaxed state. And then I told you how we can then take it one step further and then use that very same mindfulness to whatever is happening in our body and mind in this moment. Mm. And then for now, before we start to apply the antidotes, then just to be aware that there is an affliction and then not let it impel us to do a negative action with our body and mind is, very, very beneficial. So, do you have questions? Scarlett?
Hello, Venerable. Thank you so much for this very informative session. It surely has helped me. I did work with a Theravada monk, and we did exactly that. Because I was experiencing a lot of like cramping on my legs when I would sit like legs crossed. And so we would talk about like before reacting, you just say, pain has arisen. And just like you said, like when if I have to stand up, then like piece by piece, like I am, my right leg is moving, my left leg is moving, like everything. And I find that really hard to articulate because my body's moving quicker than my mind. Even like when I would do a walking meditation, I had this like rigorous like step by step of like first, right foot up, move. Like it was so hard for my mind to catch up with my body. But I just wanted to say that I find that really useful, and it makes a better connection now, like when you talk about mindfulness, like how you step by step mindfully do these things. So thank you for refreshing.
Okay, I'm not sure there's a question in there, but
Yeah, I guess like the question was, how do I slow it down? Because I feel like my mind is going quicker than I can mindfully say what I want to say.
Hmm,
Like, you know.
right. So, how do you slow down? Well, you literally slow down. I'm reminded, I'm sorry, this will show my age. Simon and Garfunkel, 59th bridge song. Slow down, you're moving too fast. Yeah, you got to make your mornings last. Okay? Okay, anyway, sorry. But how you slow down? You literally slow down. I don't know if you've seen, okay, uh maybe because you were working with this Theravadan monk somewhere in the US, but in the Thai monasteries, they are walking like so slow. Like,
Yeah, that's how he taught me to walk. And
okay,
every step
right,
I to my have to say to my head, my brain,
right,
right foot up, I don't know, it was right foot up, move to the front, down, and then it was like and then when I was meditating, first we start with noticing my breath out and in, and then he had me do some exercises with like putting my mind to like different parts of my body. But
Okay.
it was really difficult to maintain because I can't keep up.
Okay. So now I'll have the something you can try. All right. So it's actually interesting. Okay. You know, when you okay, now we just all have mobile phones, but in the past, when they had the kind of film cameras, how did they make slow motion, right? They would take more pictures per second or fewer pictures per second.
I'm gonna guess
Yeah.
maybe I don't know, fewer. I have no clue.
You would think fewer, right? But actually, that's fast motion, right? The time elapsed, um, things that we see, like the city, we see the cars and they have the line streaking, right? If you took just one picture like every minute, right, it would go in fast motion, right? But if you took the picture like every split second, you get more frames per second, right? Anyway, well, sorry for the photography analogy, but think about it, right? If you just take a snapshot here, and then the next time I might be gone, right? So
Mhm.
it's like the fast motion. So the more times you can sort of, you know, take the picture, it'll help you slow down. So rather than just lifting the foot, moving, placing, okay, what actually happens when you lift the foot? Does your ankle come up first, or does your toes come up first?
Think my ankles.
Yeah, maybe, right? So notice. So then you can think, okay, heel up, toes up,
Yeah. But I think
moving.
thinking in parts like that, it,
Hmm.
it it starts to get frustrating for me because I'm not used to thinking in parts like that. Like I just move, right? And now all of a sudden I have to think in micro parts like that. It's I yeah, it's
Well, so that's the thing, right? So remember, we were saying meditation is habituation, is familiarization. Okay. So with any kind of habit you're trying to do, right? Like, okay, you're gonna learn Spanish, right? And then you're like, oh, I'm so frustrated. I've never spoken Spanish before. And why am I saying, hola, ¿cómo estás? Right? So the first time you're gonna be like, oh, I can't do this, right? But you just continue, you persevere, you train, and then you'll become more and more aware. So one thing to keep in mind, right? Don't think in this way like, oh, now I have to think lifting, moving.
yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. You are lifting, moving, blah blah blah. So now you're just becoming aware of the reality,
So
right?
try
Not
not
the
to
other way
think.
around, right? You're not mentally thinking lift my heel up, and therefore your heel goes up. You're just walking, and you're just being aware of that.
Okay.
So maybe another way to think about it. Okay, I often do this at the beginning of seated meditation practice, but to ground our awareness in the body, you can ask yourself, how do you know that you're sitting now? How do you know that you're sitting?
Are you
Hmm?
asking me?
Well, we all ask ourselves.
Mm-mm.
Now, you might feel the weight of your body on the cushion beneath you. Okay. Now, when you stand up, how do you know you're standing? How is that different from the sensations from sitting? Now, when you're walking, how do you know that you're walking? Okay. So, oh, well, now when I'm walking, my legs are moving. Okay. Well, let's look a little bit deeper. Let's do this to the and zoom in, right? And you'll notice, okay, what does it mean that my legs are moving? Okay. Then when my feet lift, it's like this. Okay. my heel comes up first, then I extend. And then when you put the foot down, what touches first? The toes or the heel? And then where in the sole? And that's why they often do this barefoot. You can feel, okay, where, in the sole of the foot. Sometimes we might be, the outside of the foot has more pressure, sometimes the inside, every step is different, right? So it's like every breath is different, every step is different. So it's kind of like snowflakes, where from afar it seems all the same, but when you look really close, you see the differences, right? Every snowflake is unique. Similarly, every step you take, every breath you take, every move you make is different. If we pay close enough attention, I got two song references. Yeah. So, yeah, they'll be different if we are sort of mindful and attentive enough.
Thank you.
Okay. So just try like that. But and one thing, remember, I was saying, even if we have to bring our attention back to the breath, from having been distracted so many times, the key thing is not to get frustrated and sort of berate ourselves, like I can't do this, right? Don't think like that. Drop that. Just okay. I am learning a new skill. I'm learning a new habit, right? And there's actually nothing sort of new. You know how to walk. Okay. It's just to then, uh, slow down and be attentive to these steps in the process.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So, I think, as I mentioned last week, I actually am doing another session for the good folks out of Land of Medicine Buddha and Ocean of Compassion Center. That starts in 3 minutes. So maybe we can just dedicate the merit for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and attain the state of perfect, complete happiness as quickly as possible. Okay. And thank you very much. We will see you next week. And yeah, be well. If you can, a little bit of homework. Maybe try this meditation every day. If you don't already, just start what we did today, 5 minutes. Do something, start slow, and then gradually we can build up. Okay? So try that in the morning, in the evening, whenever you have time. It's of course better if you have a time scheduled into your day. So I find it, yeah, helpful. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.